Are we good now? So should I start again? My name's David Esrati and I'm here with Reconstructing Dayton, and as you see, the chair next to me is empty. Commissioner Lieberman texted me at 9:53 and declined to come. Her reason being is that I did printing for Mary McDonald. I didn't design her pieces, I didn't write her pieces, I didn't do anything other than print the pieces. The Democratic Party likes to send their printing out of Montgomery County and pay more. Seen it over and over, and that's fine. Her statement, her text to me is, "Good morning. I see my opponent paid you $7,500 on her most recent report. I don't begrudge you making money. However, the deceptive piece you produced for her is not okay. It's not only misleading, but probably an election violation. The Democrats for McDonald PAC didn't pay for the piece. Only a few people contributing to that PAC. Misleading piece for sure. The Republican speaking points of lower taxes and fighting crime. Really? I'm not going to sit and talk about the great work I do and how well our county is doing, only to have you trash me. I've tried to be kind to you over the years and actually enjoy talking to you, even though you have criticized me every chance you get. I would think by now you could see that I'm not one of them, and truly do the work I do to make a difference in the lives of people and our communities. You clearly have a conflict of interest on this one. I can't participate today." Well, I don't know what to say here. Mary McDonald said she didn't have time because of the short schedule to come in and speak either. But I think the whole point of this exercise was to give voters a chance to see up close and personal answers in a real setting, not one of these candidates forums or the League of Women Voters where you have 2 minutes to answer. Asking real, tough, hard questions. Like, why does the county commission only meet during the day? Doesn't meet at night, doesn't meet out in the community? Well, maybe that's the same reason Commissioner Lieberman didn't want to come today. She's fine and happy to come out and glad hand you at community events, but when it comes time to hearing from the public or discussing issues one-to-one here, she chooses not to show up. I wanted to talk to her about what her successes were and what her biggest failings were. And I was going to ask her about the jail, because when she was a commissioner and has been a commissioner, we've had some pretty horrific instances of abuse and high number of deaths in the jail. And yet it continued and continued and continued. And Phil Plummer earns a promotion. I wanted to talk to her about private police departments that in the last 20 years have grown. Why Metro Parks has a private police force. Sinclair, University of Dayton, Miami Valley Hospital, Kettering Hospital. But no, we couldn't talk about that. I wanted to ask her her thoughts on the culture of corruption and if the FBI finished the job. We won't hear about her positions on that. I wanted to ask her what she thought was the most successful community in Montgomery County. In other words, we have something like 30 jurisdictions here. Who was doing the best job and who isn't? And then discuss Unigov. She claims, she's all for it. We had Commissioner Foley run his One Dayton campaign, which she said she knew the reasons why it failed. I wanted to ask her about what her position was on Unigov and how she thinks it should have been done. I wanted to talk about all the quasi-governmental organizations without real oversight, that we have taxation without representation, including the 0.5% sales tax we pay to RTA with no oversight of their operations whatsoever. I wanted to ask her about how Jordan Wortham, who practically spent nothing, beat Carolyn Rice the night of the election, only for it to get turned a little later, and he spent no money. And what does that tell her? is Carolyn was weak, Jordan was strong, and what she thought this would do on her candidacy against Mary McDonald, who was a Democrat until the party basically unendorsed her and endorsed her opponent against their standing rule of endorsing incumbents in the Trotwood Mayor's race, which was a very close race. I was also going to ask her about her campaign treasurer, John Theobald. A while back, I wrote a 6,000-word piece on Esrati.com about how Mr. Theobald steered a no-bid contract to the Wilderness Agency. I was pretty sure at the time Mr. Theobald was working for the Wilderness Agency, and 7 months later he quietly resigned as her executive assistant and announced that he was a co-founder and became CFO of the Wilderness Agency. Then he got appointed effortlessly to the Montgomery County Veteran Service Commission, who I do work for. Mr. Theobald steered a contract, and it's clearly in the documents that I got released from public records, and nothing happened to him. And now he's still Debbie Lieberman's treasurer. The Wilderness Agency built her website, and I wanted to ask her about that. I also wanted to ask her about her biggest donation from Alex Dorsey. He's the developer doing the Grant Deneau Tower and a lot of the Fireblocks district. I wanted to ask her about some of the Republicans that had donated to her campaign, including Vicky Giambrone and Danny Hamilton, who gave her $500. This is the same guy that also gave money to indicted county clerk Mike Foley. I wanted to talk to her about economic development and hear her definition of it and what really a county commission can do to create jobs, and why my tax dollars should go to private companies and individuals, like a billionaire making flying helicopter taxis out at the airport, supposedly, who got $1 million of our tax dollars, Joby Aviation. And lastly, I was going to ask her, what would you do next if you lose this election? Debbie Lieberman has worked first for the auditor's office and then as a commissioner for something close to 40 years. She went to law school. I was going to ask her why she didn't become a lawyer. I wanted to ask her about how she met her husband, Dennis Lieberman, who used to be the chair of the Democratic Party before Nan Whaley, Carl Keith, Mark Owens engineered a pooch and pushed him out and pushed their own brand of corrupt politics into the party. And I wanted to talk to her about that. But we won't do any talking with Commissioner Lieberman because she somehow feels that I wouldn't ask fair and balanced questions, that I somehow was out to get her, which is nothing close to being true. I think voters have a responsibility to get educated about their candidates, and that the venues and the way we run elections doesn't work. This is further proof that they don't, because what you read in the newspaper, what you see in the voters' guides, what you see on the websites isn't enough to make a decision, and really isn't good insight into why people run. I thought it was brave of her to be one of the candidates that came out. If you watched our Lynn Cooper interview or our Michael Harbaugh interview, you watch them field tough questions, especially Harbaugh, who has positions that I can't fathom. But he came, he sat, he answered as best he could. Debbie Lieberman said yes, then said no. $7,500 is nothing for these campaigns. Debbie outraised Mary by a factor of 2 or 3 to 1. And you know, again, it's amazing how Jordan Wortham spent no money and came close to defeating Carolyn Rice. And you got to wonder, is this race really that close? Anyways, I'm sorry we didn't have anybody here to hear Miss Lieberman. I don't see any questions from anybody in the chat. And I appreciate you tuning in. I still have standing invitations out to John McManus and to Stacey Benson Taylor. Rose Lonsberry said she'd like to come in after she wins, which is fine. And same thing with Mary McDonald. That's going to depend largely upon you, the voters, and I hope this helps you understand what kind of candidates we have and who really works for you. I will post a link to the piece exposing Mr. Theobald and his steering of the contract in the description here. I hope you like and subscribe so you can be notified of future interviews that we do. And I thank you for tuning in and watching this far. This is David Esrati for ReconstructingDayton.org. Thank you.